All right, so hi, my name is Ben Finklea, and for those of you that are wandering in late, I am the CEO of a company called Veloci. We're a search engine optimization company that specializes in Drupal. I write books on SEO. This is my latest. It came out in January. It's called Drupal 8 SEO. Everybody here that's attending the class, so not if you're watching later, but if you are attending the class presently, if you'll go to veloci.com/DLC, you can fill out the form there, and we will send you a coupon code to get a free copy of either a PDF or ebook, your preference, of Drupal 8 SEO. The reason that I like to give the book away when I give a session is because I'm going to have to go very fast to cover a dozen different SEO-related things today, and there's even some questions, and I like to have time for questions at the end. And I'll go faster than you can take notes. It's impossible for you to take notes. But with a few exceptions, everything I cover is going to be in the book. Things have changed in the 5 months since this book came out, and so there's a couple things that are going to be different that I'll cover, and I'll point those things out to you when I get to them. But we're going to go, and these are the topics that we're going to cover today, more or less. And some things will take longer, some things will take shorter. If you do have questions, go ahead and just shout them out, so that we're not, taking a lot of time to, wait and ask for questions. I'm not going to do that, right? I'm just going to go. And if you have questions, just yell them out, and I'll answer them as I go. All right? So we're going to move really quick. This is a Drupal 8 website. It's just updated this morning to, I think it's 8.3. And in fact, I can jump over. I used Composer, as I do, to maintain this installation. So these are all the updates that were installed this morning. There was updates to meta tags and just a bunch of different modules that I already have installed. I haven't turned most of them on. I have turned a few on. But so I want to just give you a snapshot of what exactly this site is. It's a base installation of Drupal. I've installed the dev modules, devel modules, and then I've used devel generate to generate some content for the site and some taxonomy terms. All right, and I've also gone and created a few taxonomy terms. I like cats. You'll see us talk about a lot of cats today. If that bothers you, you're in the wrong business. And then I've installed a couple of modules that are going to help us get stuff done faster. So speed is very important to me, just to get the job done quicker. There are 2 chairs over here. If you want to take those chairs, one of those chairs, and looks like there's still a chair in the back if you want that one, or you can stand. I don't care if you stand or not. That's for your own comfort and safety. So one of them that I love, and it's probably my favorite navigational module in Drupal, is called Coffee. How many of you have ever used or seen the Coffee module? Less than half. Good. So Coffee is a module that gives you a little input that you can type in the admin screen that you want, and it'll just pull up a list of all the admin screens that match that and take you right there. It's a very, very fast way to get around in Drupal. So if I hit a special keystroke like Command D, it pulls up this little thing, and I can go, oh, well, I want to install modules. And then look at that, extend modules, and you hit enter, and it takes you to the extend page. And so you can jump around in Drupal very, very quickly if you know already where you want to go. Now, if you don't know where you want to go, then I recommend installing another module called the admin menu module. And the admin toolbar module. The admin toolbar, what it does is it gives you drop-down, slide-out menus to navigate the administration screens. All right. So you go hover over one of these, and usually I might have to refresh the page, but there you go. So you see it gives you it. So if you don't know where to go and you need to look at the menus and stuff, this is a great one to use. And it's typically the first 2 things that I ask to be installed on a Drupal site that I'm about to work on, because I go from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. Every once in a while I work on a Drupal 6 site still. and I can't remember from one site to the next what version I'm on and which, where that particular screen is I'm looking for. So this module really kind of is levels the field between the different versions of Drupal. The other module that I really want to talk about today, I've already turned it on, is the Seo Checklist Module. So I'm going to type in SEO and go to the Seo Checklist Module. How many of you are using the Seo Checklist Module? Excellent, great. So the Seo Checklist Module is exactly what it sounds like. It's a checklist for doing SEO. And when you install it, and let me just be clear here, it is a checklist. It doesn't do your SEO. It is a checklist to help you remember what you need to do for SEO. Okay? So when you load up when you install the SEO checklist, it's going to put this admin screen on your site. And there's some descriptions here, and there's a link to buy this awesome book. If you want to buy it, of course, you'll all get it free, but it's there. If you ever forget or you lose it or something, you can go buy another one. And you can go through the left-hand, all these left-hand tabs, as you go through the tabs, it tells you all the different things you need to do for that category of optimization. And usually, and I apologize, I must have forgotten to clear these out, but usually these are all blank and we'll go through them and show you how it works. But like installing the SEO Checklist module, installing the coffee module and enabling it, configuring the coffee module, etc., and admin toolbar. So we've already done a lot of these things. And it'll actually, as you turn on modules, it will actually see that they're like the redirect module, right? So it will detect if it's already installed, and if it's installed, it'll put a checkbox. It'll check the checkbox for you, and that's great because then it just kind of is keeping track. And that just uses a little snippet of code that is built into Drupal, and it just checks that box for you. And then you click Save, and it puts a time and date stamp on it. The other feature that I want to point out is that there is this text right here next to things that are covered in the book. So if you have the book, which you all do, it'll have a page number, and you go, oh, I'm supposed to do that. Well, that's what you're supposed to do, but how to do it is on page 43. So you open it up to page 43, and there it is, how to configure the redirect module. Boom, and it takes you through step by step with screenshots, tells you exactly how to do it, and it should make your SEO life much, much easier. Okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through the SEO checklist module, and the list that I have here more or less goes down the SEO checklist module. It jumps around a little bit. So I'm actually going to follow this list because I think it'll just be the most helpful stuff in order. So the next thing I want to talk about is called Path Auto, and you'll see it's down here on the basics of SEO. And so I'm going to go to my modules page, and I'm going to search for Path Auto. And if you've not already installed the module, let me back up to the SEO checklist. If you've not already installed the module and you're using Composer or Console or Drush, the commands are here in the SEO checklist. You simply just copy and paste that command into your command line, hit enter, assuming you have Composer set up, and it will go and find and install dependencies and the whole thing for you, right? So it saves you, 30 seconds it takes you to go to Drupal.org and look up how to do that, but it's all here. So so that's another benefit. You can turn that off if you're not using those. You just go down here and you check that box, click Save, and it takes all those out so that they're not a distraction, right? So now you have a much cleaner interface if you take those off. All right, so we were talking about Path Auto. So we're going to go in, and we're going to search for Path Auto, and we're going to check that off, click Install. Now, Path Auto, okay, we got a dependency, no problem. We're good to go. Path Auto is a tool. How many of you are using Path Auto? Is there anybody who's not? My son raised his hand for those of you watching on the video. So I'm not going to spend time going over Path Auto then, because you know what it is and you know what it does. All right. I'll give the 10-second version. Path Auto automatically generates the URL for the piece of content that you're saving based on the title of the node, right? Or other things. It's tokens, anything that you want to tell it to name it based on. You can name it based on the category that it's in, if it's in a taxonomy, and but usually the name of the node is a very popular way to generate that. So I'm not going to waste any of your time going over that, but I will go back to the SEO checklist, and I'm going to show you real quick that it checked it off, that it was installed. So now that it's turned on, it detected that it's there, and we'll just click save, and you'll notice now that it gives me this great timestamp and tells who is logged in. Assume I go by admin among my friends, so that's me. All right, so so configuring the Path Auto module. Again, I'm not going to waste time for that, but you check those off. Click Save, and then boom, you're done with Path Auto. How many of you are using the Redirect module? Okay, there's a few people that didn't raise their hand. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cover the Redirect module. Redirect module, it manages all your redirects in your Drupal installation. So let's go. I'm going to open this in a separate window so I don't have to keep jumping back and forth. But we're going to just go Redirect. And we're going to install that. Redirect allows you, and then we go Option D, Redirect, and there's where we can configure the redirect settings, and also where we can add URL redirects. So a redirect, everybody knows what a redirect is in general in the web. What this does is it gives you an interface to create redirects inside of Drupal. So you're not having to go to your htaccess file or to your site administrator or anybody else, and if you want to move a piece of content around. So it's really a convenient way for non-back-end people or non-server people to get their redirects where they need to be. To create a redirect, it's really pretty straightforward. There's a from, a to, a status code, which typically you're going to use 301. Sometimes you might use 307s. More and more, this is just an aside. 302s are not great for SEO, so I wouldn't use 302s if I were working on your website. All right, language, if you have language stuff installed, otherwise you leave it to the original language, and you can simply create you put out a URL and you put out the wrong one, and you need to redirect that to the right one. You can come in here and seconds you can add a redirect. Do I need to demonstrate actually creating a redirect? Anybody want to see that? Nobody's excited about that. I'm going to move on. All right, so meta tags. How many of you are using the meta tag module? Cool. How many are using it properly? That was a bad question. That was not good. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and let's see if I've got it installed already. Yeah, so I've already got meta tags turned on. I'm going to show you something that I just discovered literally this morning as I was kind of reviewing things for this class. There was a new release to the meta tag module, version 3.1. And in the release notes, they said, it mentioned the schema.org meta tag module. And I was like, the schema.org meta tag module, that's interesting, because one of the things that we actually usually cover in this is the RDF UI module. You can see up here, the RDF UI module is something I would eventually get to. RDF is built into Drupal 8. The UI is user interface, so it gives you a user interface to it. And so you can go and do RDF. But since it was built into Drupal 8, Google, not because it was built into Drupal 8, but since that happened, Google actually came out and said, you know what, JSON LD is the preferred method, not RDF. And you're like, what does JSON LD mean? I have no idea, but that's what they want you to use. It's another standard, right? So if you go to schema.org, and I realize I am talking now about schema instead of meta tags, but they're tied together, and I'm going to come back. You go to schema.org and you look at one of these. These are all the schemas. All this text here on the left is a schema to describe a breadcrumb, or we're looking at a web page, to describe a comment. And so the reason schema exists is so that you can tell the search engines what a individual piece of content is on your site. So if you have a field you can wrap that field in the RDF that says, hey, this is the price, and this is the discount, and this is the final price, and this is the MSRP, and this is the alternate price, right? Or here's the coupon code, or whatever, right? You can define all those things, because the search engine is just going to see a bunch of numbers. They don't really understand what those mean necessarily. This greatly helps them understand your website. They use some of that information in the search results, which makes your search results stand out. So if you've ever been searching in Google and you see like a star rating on something, like a movie, and there's a star rating, that is JSON LD or RDF, right? That's how that person who owned that website got Google to show that, is by using JSON LD. You have a question?
Is microdata out the door then?
Microdata is pretty much out the door. I mean, it's still functional. So if you have a site already using microdata, I wouldn't put a lot of effort in going and changing it. But moving forward, I would not implement a microdata implementation. Other questions about that? All right, I'm going to go back to. So we've turned meta tags on. I'm going to turn on a couple more of these. Dublin Core, I think they're more or less redundant, but if you like Dublin Core, that's fine. You can certainly use those. That's going to be just fine. Google Plus is meh. Open Graph, Twitter cards, I'm going to turn that on. Verification, if you need to do verification for, say, Google Analytics or Google Webmaster Tool or Google Search Console, or Bing, if you need to verify that you're the owner of this site when you submit it to another search engine, then the verification module is great. All right, so I'm going to install those, and then we're going to jump over to Command D meta tags, and there we go. And here is the configuration for all the meta tags on your site. Now, a meta tag is data that's put in the header of the HTML that defines what this page is all about, right? Schema.org defines what each element of the page is all about, okay? So that's a good way to think about that is your meta tags are about the whole thing, and schema is about the things, part of that whole. So we're going to go through here, and you're going to configure your global meta tags. And these are, the way that meta tags works is it's a failover function, right? So anything that you set as global, if there's nothing specific set there, it will use global, right? And it fails over all the way down to the individual node, right? So in a node, if you overwrite the metadata, it will use what's in that node. If it doesn't detect anything, it'll look at it'll go up the chain. So next is going to be for that specific content type if you've set it up, and then all content, and then from content it's going to go to global. Your front page is considered its own separate thing, right? So it's not going to fall under content, it's going to fall under and fail over to front page. So whatever you define your front page as, right? This is where you're going to set the meta tags. Yes, sir?
And with localization, would you just have a primary sitemap that just links out to the, well, no, sorry, with the meta tags, how would you define the various translated websites?
Language, so there is a language tag. So let's go in here, and usually you'd set that at the global level, I believe, and then you would fail over. So here's content language. Okay. So you would put in, for English, or you'd put in, I think, US-EN or something like that. And that would define that you're using US English, and then that's the global tag. But then if you got down to a page that was using something else, you would need to edit the meta tag and change it to the language that you're actually using. I'm not sure. That's a great question. In fact, if you want to Google that for us, I'm not sure if there's an integration right now between the meta tag module and the localization in Drupal 8. That'd be actually interesting to know. I've just not worked on one since Drupal 8 came out. Cool. All right, I'm going to perch here. Okay, meta tags. So let's set up some meta tags. Typically I would go through, and the meta tag, setting up and configuring your meta tag module, it takes many hours. And I usually start with the spreadsheet. And I define kind of what I want my globals to be. And of course, I've done it so many times, I've got several different versions of how meta tags have been configured. So, but really, you start with kind of thinking about what's this failover, and I do it with kind of a multi-tiered document. It's time consuming. Talked to Damien, we had a good conversation at DrupalCon about making this a lot easier to understand from an interface standpoint, because right now, what am I looking at? If you didn't know that I clicked on global and just remembered, oh, I clicked on global, you wouldn't necessarily right this second know exactly what I was looking at. So how, getting this right is actually pretty hard. But we'll go through and, on a global level, yeah, we want to start putting in some tokens to define these. So like the site name. So we're going to just I'm going to steal tokens from here. And then you can also use any token you want. So open graph site name, great, that's easy. But as a global, does that really work as a global? Do we want to put site name as the, maybe not. Instead, let's go look at content. So your content, this is where you really want to set a lot of your tags. Things like open graph, you want to set here, and you're not going to use, so maybe for the site name and then the page URL title of the URL, yeah, you want to use like the node title and often the site name together. Where did it go? You can see how hard this is and why it can really sometimes be time consuming. So that would be the title. And what these are tokens. Node title is going to take the title of the node. Site name is going to take the name of the site. You configure the node title on the node when you're creating it. You configure the site name in the administration section of your Drupal site. Pretty straightforward. A description. So sometimes taking like the summary. I use description for abstract. I hear a lot of typing, which is totally fine. If you want to take notes, that's totally great. I have put all of the tokens that you need and all that you need to set up your meta tags down to the field for typical websites. Now, like I said at the beginning, I've never done the same website twice. They're always different. But this chapter 3, I think it is, has all this written out, exactly what these fields need to be. I'm not saying don't take notes. I don't mind if you take notes at all. I just don't want you to get stressed that you don't remember what it's supposed to be. Question?
Seeing kind of how difficult this is to follow, have you ever tried just editing the YAML file instead? Is it easier to understand than, Yeah, that's kind of my question.
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
I've never tried that. However, I'm not a developer.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm like one of the only people in the room who's not like a Drupal developer. Now, I'm more of a site builder, right? I can pull the pieces together. I know how it all works. I kind of know how to talk to developers. Sometimes I get what I want, but yeah. The question was, have you ever tried editing the YAML file directly? And I only barely know what a YAML file is. Okay. I know it's got the configuration file in Drupal, kind of. That's like all I know about it. So I've never tried that. If that's easier, if we could build a tool to make this easier, or if I could like save out versions of YAML files and then just install them on a Drupal site and it would do all this for me, that's money, my friend, and we should talk about that. And that's why we do these. That's why we do Drupal camps, right? Just to learn those things. In any case, so you're going to set all these things, and then when you click Save, it's going to save that configuration so that when you go back to the home page of your site, or you go to a particular piece of content, and you look at your, you look at the source, you see here all the meta tags that it's rendering for you. Now, it's giving it a very long summary, and that's a kind of, I think, a misconfiguration just on the standard, out of the box, what a summary is. And so fixing that is going to be some. But generator is one that comes standard, and I always turn it off. The reason is because it makes it easier for hackers to figure out what I'm running. Not that they can't figure it out anyway, but why make it easier on them, right? So I turn off generator. Google doesn't care. But anyway, so we've configured some metadata there. That's great. And so that's how the meta tags module is going to work, right? Those individual settings are going to be, again, Chapter 3. All right. Questions about meta tags? Okay. All right, let's move on. XML Sitemap. I've had a lot of... How many of you are using the XML Sitemap on Drupal 8? Okay, cool. I had a lot of problems with it. Like, I can't... Like, if I turn it on right now, it won't work. In fact, it may even crash the site. And so what I want to do instead is I want to install another sitemap, XML Sitemap module, and called the Simple XML Sitemap. And it's just it's another module that does that accomplishes the same thing, but it does it in a different way. And I think that just it's maintained at this point a little better. So so you can go to Simple XML Sitemap and you can configure it, what entities that you want it to be. You can set a default base URL if that's not working for you. Generally, out of the door, the standard one is the standard settings are fine. This Simple XML Sitemap is not something that I cover in the book. I talk about the XML Sitemap, but then like something changed, and something changed in Drupal or something changed in that module, and it's just not working now. In any case, you can come in here and you can define the different entities and any custom links that you want to add. You can do here in the Simple XML Sitemap. So you can spend a lot of time on this, but then at the end of the day, you're going to generate your sitemap. I'm not going to have a lot of content on my site, so I go to sitemap.xml. There's my XML sitemap. It's only pulling. Oh, I didn't configure it to pull any of the. I didn't configure it to pull any of my content, so that's important to do. Let's go to set up the entities. I'm going to go to content, enable content support, and then I guess I probably have to go over to the content type and tell it to include it. So we'll edit that content type and we'll say simple XML sitemap, index entity. You see how I did that? Okay, so and turn that on and then set a priority, save, and then I'm going to have to go regenerate that sitemap on it. Okay, now I should have a little bit more content in the sidebar. There we go. Okay, questions about that? Notice we have really bad URLs, node/13, node 14. That's because we skipped the path auto module. People, really? I mean, why did we skip that, right? I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. Everybody's looking at me like, why is he mad at us? I don't understand. I'm not. I'm just. Anyway, let's move on. Google Analytics. All right, the Google Analytics. How many of you are using the Google Analytics module? Anybody not using the Google Analytics module? Okay. One person. Stop. One person. It's confusing. The Google Analytics module, as you know, is a very easy way to get Google Analytics, just the snippet of JavaScript into the footer of all the pages on your site. It's great. It works wonderfui well. Very quickly, if you get deep into analytics and you start building reports and stuff, you're going to find out that the Google Analytics module is basic. And there's actually the Google Tag Manager that you want to start using instead. And installing Google Tag Manager is a little bit more complex than the Google Analytics module. But I would say, since you're all using the Google Analytics module, the next stage here is going to go, okay, let's go and implement Google Tag Manager, which basically makes a container into which you put the Google Analytics code, and then you put the container code on your site. It just abstracts it, and then but what that allows it to do is actually track things a lot more granularly. So you can see how far down a page somebody scrolled or how long they watched a video, and it gives you a lot more control over how that tag works. I'm not going to take the time to maybe I should do like a whole session just on setting that up and how to configure it and how to build reports with it. But something to think about, next steps, if you need deeper data, think about Google Tag Manager. Yes, sir?
How do you safely use Google Tag Manager? Because it seems like it allows people to start to inject code into your site very, very easily without going through a developer workflow.
The answer for that is there's a document write function that you can disable, and so that right there will prevent it from basically enacting it. And you want to have cross-site scripting sort of defined. Beyond that, you really just want to make sure that your third-party code is really sort of audited. I'm not sure who I was talking to. So, okay.
I think also in the Google Tag Manager admin, which you don't have access to, but you can blacklist and whitelist things within their interface as well. So that's kind of helpful, not really helpful.
The question was, how do you prevent, once you set up Google Tag Manager, how do you prevent people from just arbitrarily, not people, but how do you prevent other administrators of the Google property on the Google Analytics site, how do you prevent them from arbitrarily adding code to the tag manager, which then will put that code onto the site? And we had, right, in that the question?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And so we had a couple of different answers. One of them was,
So any of the containers, you can set a document write function as enabled, or
what does that mean? What is a document write function? What does that mean?
So when you're initiating code, like think in Ajax terms, you have like a this statement or like a running listener script. With JavaScript, you have to initiate something like a this command or a init command, a init function. So the document write function allows for basically like a read-only sort of ability for the code versus the ability to write.
Okay.
And so this comes into play more in focus when you're looking at your cache settings or if you're looking at doing like an aggregation. But other than that, it generally doesn't cause too many challenges. I look at it most aware, if you will, with third-party marketing scripts like Marketo, or Marketo is mainly the biggest pain. Of all the ones I've looked at.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple of methods to turn that off, and then there's a blacklist function that I've not personally used, but
I mean, it's in, though, like you don't have control over it as a developer. Whoever has control of the analytics account has control over that blacklist.
okay. The other thing is don't give people, administrative rights to your Google Analytics if you can control that, and that solves it kind of right off the bat there. All right, so good. We're gonna go to the Search 404 module. How many of you ever used Search 404? Good. Okay, good. This is awesome. Something we can sink our teeth into. So I'm going to go turn on Search 404. Search 404 is basically what it does is if somebody goes to a URL that doesn't exist on your site, instead of getting just a generic 404 or a cutesy 404, which I find so annoying. Like, you broke the internet. I hate that, right? But that's what everybody does. And there's these, but you get the 404 page, but instead of doing anything helpful, it just says, whoopsie, and then you're stuck, right? So it's much more user friendly to provide people who hit the 404 page with some possible answers to their questions, and it does that by taking the URL that they visited and turning that into a search query and then searching the content on your site. Now, all of the content on this particular site is been generated by the Devel module, so that's not, okay, so this is going to be our accidental. Let's say they wanted to go to this page, but instead they messed up, and we're just going to generate this really awful, actually, that should probably work. And then it says your search, because it searches on the, dang it, all right. We're going to go set up the, I shouldn't have skipped it, I'm sorry, but we're going to go really quickly set up the Path Auto module. It's my bad. I thought we'd just move right past it, but so much of your site and function is going to be based on what you have there in the patterns. So Path Auto, really quick, we're going to say just for all content, we're going to make a pattern that's just going to take the node title. And that's going to be our pattern for now. We may come back and change that, and we'll just say do it on all the content. And this is going to just be all content. All right. going to save that. Great, and then we're going to go and we're going to bulk generate all these, and let's just do all the content for all paths. Don't ever do this. All right. Now, what I just did is I went and wiped out all the paths on my site with no redirect function set in place. On a demo, on a dev site that you're never going to publish live, that's fine. But if you do that on a live site, you've suddenly broken everything on your site. And the only thing you can do at that point is hope that there's a good backup. So that's rule number one in doing SEO. Make a backup of your whole site, because little things that you change can make can cause some big problems. All right, let's go back to the search 404 here, and let's jump back to this page. Still generated no results.
The site's not indexed.
My site's not indexed, which means I need to go run cron, right? No. Oh, come on. So now we're indexing our site. And I think we're done now. Now, let's go back to the website. That works. But if I go and do something else, if I have something that's broken to that, let's configure the search 404 module. Okay, let's see. I think I can actually tell it. Anybody see what's wrong here?
Might scroll down and turn on the word checking or. Under advanced settings, use or between keywords. Right there, advanced settings, use or between keywords.
I'm not sure that's going to fix it, between you and me.
Clear cache.
Clear cache, thank you. That's always it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like 90% of the time. All right, we're going to try this one more time, and if it doesn't work, then I encourage you to go step by step through. All right, let's just try like just a single word.
It worked.
Oh, it did work.
Because it adds in the or.
Yay!
I was trying to match the or set.
Whoever said that, you get a physical copy of Drupal 8 SEO. You're awesome. So there it is. So that's how it works, right? So now it still gives me a page not found, still gives a 404 error, which is what search engine and crawlers want to see. But then for your users, it goes, look, you tried to go there, but maybe this is where you need to go. Is that pretty cool? Does that work? Okay. Sorry that took a minute to get through. We're doing pretty good. We're ripping through this stuff pretty quick. The Sitemap module. Let's go turn that on. And I'm jumping around really quick. The SEO checklist, all of this stuff is in the SEO checklist. So you'd be jumping back and forth to the SEO checklist. I'm going straight through it just to get through it quickly because we just have such a limited time today. But the sitemap module creates a different sort of sitemap. You've already created the XML sitemap. This creates an HTML sitemap. An HTML sitemap is good because not all crawlers are going to grab the XML sitemap. And a lot of crawlers kind of want to see a structure to your site. Also, users often will use the HTML sitemap. In addition to that, the sitemap exposes all of the RSS feeds that are already built into Drupal, but they're not like exposed anywhere. So people don't know that they exist. So if there's a category of your site or a taxonomy you can actually grab an RSS feed. Everybody knows what RSS feed is, right? Good, a lot of nods. All right. Anybody need an explanation of RSS? Good. All right, good. We're good. So you turn on the sitemap, and let's go configure that. And it's pretty straightforward. What content do you want? Let's include these vocabularies. Do you want these menus or not? The front page, all that kind of stuff. And you can just define, like, if you want there to be a separate CSS file, to style it in a particular way if you want, and just all these different settings. It's great. And then when you're done, you simply go to sitemap, and there's the sitemap. It's not pulling the content. So anyway, you'll need to tell it to pull the content, or maybe I got to go to the content type. And no, I don't see a sitemap setting. Something I'm doing is not turning on you would never know I did this for a living, would you?
Did you run cron again?
Oh, maybe clear cache, run cron, all the. There should be just a button, right?
Yeah.
We've included all the vocabulary. Oh, you know what? We don't have anything in those vocabularies, so we haven't actually defined our content to be into our categories. That's probably what it is. Let me just go do that. Would you one real quick? We'll go to content, and we'll take dollar, and we'll add dollar to. And actually, we haven't even added dollar to a content type. We haven't added a content type to a taxonomy. So let's go to our content types. You guys know how to do this stuff, right? And we add a field, correct? And we're going to add a taxonomy reference. We're going to call this category. Save that, and then we have to define, right? This seems a little different to me than and then you define what it is. Here we go. Okay, now I should be able to go to this is an article. So let's go find an article. Ludus is our article, and I should now be able to add a tag, and I can't remember what taxonomies I've added. Now I got to go open my taxonomies. Need a term. Okay, we're gonna do ragdoll. Oh, come on. Okay, now it's in. We have one piece of content in that taxonomy, and if I go to regenerate, I'm going to go run. I think cron is going to be my friend here. And then if we go to the sitemap, we should have ragdoll. Okay, so in this category, it has one piece of content in it, but we now also have the RSS feed that somebody can subscribe to that category and then get all that content pulled into their newsreader. All right, does that make sense? That was very fast. I went through a lot of different steps, but it can be very helpful, especially, I like the RSS part of it more than almost anything else, but providing all the links to the different content on your site can be a very helpful thing. All right, we have about 15 minutes left. I want to skip to the real-time SEO module and show you what that's about. So let's go ahead and go into back to our ragdoll. Actually, that's not a piece of content. That is a Here we go, Ludus. So I'm going to edit a piece of content. The real-time SEO module does some scoring of your content based on a JavaScript library that's an open source JavaScript library that is built for that purpose. So it uses that library on your site, scores your content, and then tells you what you need to change to make it more optimized. So it's actually very helpful. So let's say we're going to optimize this site for the term, this page for the term ragdoll. So you're going to go down here and you'll see this real-time SEO for Drupal. And you say, well, what's the focus keyword? Well, it's going to be ragdoll. Okay? And notice I didn't have to hit save or anything. Just in real time, it kind of said, the focus keyword ragdoll does not appear in the page title. Yeah, that's probably bad. If you want to rank for something, you probably ought to like say that word on the page. Or the page, really, the page ought to be about that. Isn't that the right way to say that? So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to say my ragdoll cat is named Ludus. I think it's a great name for a cat. And when we tab out of that field, well, it's usually supposed to update. Maybe. Let's edit that again. There we go. You're right. For that one, some of them you change them and it actually updates on the fly. So meta description has been specified, but it does not contain the focus keyword. Huh, okay. Well, instead of going over here to meta tags and then searching through and finding the description, this module actually pulled the description into this little box right here to show you this is what when this page shows up in Google, this is what it's going to look like. Isn't that cool? So you can actually edit it right here. So we're just going to say exputo ragdoll facili in canmesum mamoto cat. I don't know. And that one, as you can see, it did update it. It actually scored that now as a green because we've included it. The focus keyword doesn't appear in the first paragraph of the copy, and so on and so forth. Right? I don't need to go through all these, and then you save it, and then look at this. If you ever gone to your site and you're like, well, what should I do today to make it more SEO friendly? This module can really help because over here on the right, under real-time SEO, as long as you've defined what the focus keyword is for your content, it will actually put whether it's green, orange, yellow, or red, and it'll put it right here on your content listing of your site. So you can go on your site and you can say, okay, look, I need to, here are the pages of content I need to work on my site. Okay, that leaves us about 12 minutes. There's a couple of things on here that we haven't covered, but we were able to skip over some things, so that was really good. We had a couple of questions. The search attachments API question and getting it to fail gracefully. Who had that question?
I have an additional question too.
Okay, so we're going to skip that? Thank God, I had no idea. I really had no idea. You had an additional question you wanted to add?
Yes.
Okay, what is it?
In the Drupal 7 version of your checklist,
Yes.
you touched on modules that were keyword research, keyword analysis that you utilize the Alchemy API. And I really like that feature, and I wondered, since it doesn't seem to be included in this checklist, if you knew anything that was comparable, or if you knew kind of what the future state is for those types of modules that analyze the content, I guess more in depth. Because Alchemy API, I guess, went the way of the dodo with IBM Bluemix. I'm not sure about that though.
And I'm just going to say Alchemy. I'm almost positive I didn't include that in the SEO checklist. Almost positive.
Well, Alchemy was part of the content analysis module that was included, and so in order to analyze the content, you use a keyword research tool
Right.
with the content
Okay.
with Alchemy API.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and go in order and talk about decoupled Drupal and SEO real quick first, and then I'll come back to your question. Everybody's decoupled Drupal means that you're using Drupal as the back end of your website to contain the content, and even using like logins and styles and views and things like that, and it's just generating basically the text that needs to be displayed somewhere. But then on the front end, what people actually see, you're using some other system, some other methodology to take that text and then style it, make it work on a watch or work on a phone, or style in a particular way, or over your Alexa device, or whatever it is, and you're styling that content using a completely separate system. And so the question is, well, how does that affect SEO? And I can tell you, it really does. It makes SEO really hard, and there are no standard answers that I can give you to say, here's exactly how to do that with a decoupled Drupal site. The experiences that I've had is that you want to make sure that the text that you are putting out from Drupal is search engine optimized, and so certain tools are really going to help you do that, like the real-time SEO module. However, what happens to that text later on, some of the modules we've talked about today, like specifically how to display or how to mark up content before it gets rendered to the page, those things kind of like they don't work anymore, like the meta tags, right? Will those meta tags get pushed out to whatever service that it is you're using to display that content? It all depends on what the developer wrote your Drupal site to do. And so you've got to work with your developer. And that's one of the things that, like I said, Valachi, we're not developers. I don't have developers on staff, right? We only work with agencies. And so when we have a client, I'm working with two different parties. I'm working with my client, and I'm working with whatever development agency or individual that they've chosen to work with on the site. And so then we have this kind of three-way conversation that we're going, well, here are the things we needed to do, and it's not happening. And if it was a standard Drupal site, it would look like this. However, over here, it's just that content's not showing up. Why isn't it showing up? And then you work with, for us, we just say that to the developer, and the developer either can address it or they have to do research and fix it in some other way. There are other tools that you can use to pre-render content, so that if you're decoupling it, but you're still using it to make a web page, like a standard web page, then you can use some pre-render APIs. I think, is it prerender.io maybe? I can't remember the name of the site that does it's a subscription you pay for, and it pre-renders stuff for you. And what that does is it takes all that stuff and writes it out to a file that Google can read. And it's a third-party service. It's something you pay for. But if you need that decoupled Drupal site, then that's a way to do it. I would strongly encourage you that you only use decoupled when you really need to decouple Drupal, right? Don't just use it because it's cool and everybody's using it, or you just want to learn it. That's not a good reason to publish somebody's website in a decoupled way, because you break all the tools. All the great stuff that's built into Drupal, you've just broken a lot of it. And then you have to replace it. And then when I come along and it's like, hey, go out, search engine optimize this site, and it's a straight up site, except it's been done in a decoupled way, and I'm like, why is this decoupled? Well, it's just the way that we're doing sites now. That's not a good reason to decouple a site. Use Drupal. Use what's built in, right? And the client will be happier. You'll be able to add things on faster. You'll be able to search engine optimize it faster. So that's kind of a non-answer. It's kind of to discourage you from just doing it arbitrarily. But if you want to get into specifics, I think that's probably something we take outside.
A little bit of the last 2 points. Using the Yoast module, is there a way to have that analyze the rendered output of the page rather than just the admin screen?
You mean the real-time SEO module?
Yes.
Why, no, it doesn't look at the rendered output of the page. It only looks at what's in the fields.
Okay.
Is there a way to make it do that? Well, I mean, we're developers, right? So yes, you developed that solution and you gave it back to the rest of us.
So
no, not really.
Paragraphs or anything like that where you have nested entities as fields.
That is a drawback of that module, is that it doesn't look at a page. It only looks at a node. That's a great next. I mean, that's maybe an add-on module or an upgraded feature that they could do. I know that I've seen a ticket or two on formerly the Yoast module, now the real-time SEO module.
They changed the name of it?
They literally changed the name of it, yeah.
Okay.
It's still Drupal.org/project/Yoast because it's really hard to change your URL once you've created it on Drupal.org.
Okay.
But they released it as the Yoast module, and then politics happened, and then they changed the name to something else.
Real-time SEO?
It's a Drupal real-time SEO module. They didn't ask me about the name. I could have helped them. The last question we have so far is analyzing content in depth with the Alchemy API. So, the real reason I think the Alchemy API kind of went away is because on-page optimization it's not really great SEO. Great SEO is producing content that people love. And the things that I showed you today, with the exception of the real-time SEO module, are all about structuring your site in a way that's friendly to the search engines. It's not about stuffing it with keywords or analyzing it, and it's different than what's ranking number one, so I'm going to make mine look like the one that ranks number one, which is kind of how I feel the Alchemy API module worked.
True. With any tool, there's bad and good that
Yeah.
you done with it, right?
Yeah.
My goal would be just to have a sanity check that's kind of in place for the content writers that do provide
Yeah,
content.
yeah. There are lots of tools out there. I frankly, I don't find any of the tools to be as good as me doing it myself. And so I just do it myself. But I don't scan whole sites looking for whether individual pages are optimized. I just go through each individual page because I find that when I use those tools that it just says all of them are messed up, right? The way that I want it to be. And they don't look at it the way that I want to look at it anyway. And again, I'm not looking to make sure I get a certain 3.5% embed rate of this keyword in this page. I just don't do it because it doesn't work.
What about the KW research? That was included, right, in your SEO checklist previously?
I don't think so.
Keyword research? No?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Keyword research, I use Google's AdWords tools.
Okay.
So if you have free account, you can go create an AdWords account, and then you go under tools, and there's keyword research. You can start with a keyword, or you can start with a URL, and it'll go create keyword lists for you. And that's really good. Moz has a keyword explorer tool, and I use that pretty extensively, but it pulls its data from Google's AdWords tool. Although they are mixing and matching and doing some stuff in a way that I think is better than what Google provides for you out of the box. But that's a paid tool. Moz is a paid tool. It's not super expensive, but it's something you got to spend a few bucks on. Other things I do for keyword research, I do go look at specifically. I look at what keywords competitors are buying, because I assume that they're trying to use their money as wisely as they can, and so if they're spending money to buy a keyword in AdWords, then that's a word that's probably a good word for them. And I use a tool called SpyFu.
Yes.
SPYFU, I think. SpyFu.com. And then again, another paid tool, and then you can put in competitors, and it'll tell you what they're spending money on AdWords. It's brilliant. So those are kind of the three ways that I do keyword research, and I pull them all together into a big spreadsheet. If you took spreadsheets away from me, I would not be able to do my job. It is afternoon, so there is one more question. I've got technically 11 copies of the book, so the next 11 people, if you want to queue up. And then, sir, if you want to ask your question on the fly, then I'll answer it if I can.